Authority without integrity is like a house built on sand. It may stand tall for a while, but it will eventually crumble under the weight of its own weakness. When someone is given a title, a badge, or a position of responsibility, it comes with a duty to act with fairness, humility, and respect. Without those qualities, authority becomes nothing more than an illusion of power that can be abused at any moment. The HOA security guard pulling a gun on an innocent woman revealed how dangerous authority becomes when integrity is missing. It turned what should have been a protective role into a reckless act that endangered lives. When integrity is absent, authority becomes a weapon rather than a shield. Instead of creating safety, it fosters fear and mistrust among those it is meant to protect. The man who pulled that gun wasn't demonstrating strength. He was exposing insecurity and ego wrapped in false power. Authority should never be used to intimidate or dominate others, but when the wrong mindset takes hold, that authority turns toxic. Communities break down when people in power forget that their role is service, not superiority. Integrity is the anchor that keeps authority grounded in purpose and honor. True authority is tested in the moments when fear or pride could easily take control. It's easy to misuse a position when you feel untouchable, but integrity demands restraint and accountability even when no one is watching. A person with integrity thinks not only of their own image but of the safety, dignity, and trust of others. The HOA guard failed this test because his decisions were rooted in arrogance rather than responsibility. The absence of integrity made him believe that waving a gun would prove dominance, when in reality it revealed his inability to lead. Authority granted without integrity always leads to collapse because it lacks the moral foundation to sustain respect. People will follow rules out of fear temporarily, but they will never genuinely respect someone who abuses power. Integrity, on the other hand, commands respect naturally because it is consistent, fair, and principled. My daughter, faced with a weapon, showed more authority in her calm and controlled response than the guard ever could with his gun. That contrast exposes the truth. Authority without integrity is hollow, while integrity without authority is still powerful. This lesson extends far beyond one incident and applies to every corner of life: homes, workplaces, communities, and governments. A boss without integrity becomes a tyrant, a leader without integrity becomes a dictator, and a parent without integrity loses the respect of their children. In every case, authority without integrity destroys trust and weakens the very structure it was meant to strengthen. The HOA security guard's mistake is a reminder that authority is not measured by how much fear you can create but by how much trust you can build. Without integrity, authority is not only meaningless but dangerous. False power and real strength often appear similar on the surface, but their foundations are worlds apart. False power relies on fear, intimidation, and force to gain temporary control, while real strength is rooted in discipline, wisdom, and calmness. The HOA security guard believed that pulling a gun gave him power, but in reality it only revealed weakness. Anyone can wave a weapon, but not everyone can hold authority with grace and respect. Real strength doesn't demand fear, it earns respect through presence and composure. False power thrives on insecurity and the need to prove something to others. It pushes people to act out of ego rather than responsibility, always trying to showcase control rather than naturally embody it. When the guard pulled his weapon, it wasn't strength guiding him. It was his own lack of confidence and the belief that force could replace integrity. Real strength, however, is quiet but undeniable. It doesn't need to shout or threaten because it naturally commands attention and respect. That is why my daughter's calm response showed more power than his reckless aggression. True strength shines in moments of crisis because it doesn't crumble under pressure. It is built over years of training, self-control, and the ability to see beyond the heat of the moment. My daughter's role as an FBI tactical commander trained her not just to act with skill, but to act with clarity and restraint. That is what makes strength real. It protects rather than destroys, and it de-escalates instead of escalating. False power, on the other hand, escalates quickly because it is fragile and cannot withstand challenges. Real strength has nothing to prove, it simply exists and stands firm. False power can intimidate temporarily, but it never lasts because fear eventually turns into resistance. People will not trust or follow someone who rules through aggression for long, and that trust is the true measure of power. Real strength endures because it is rooted in consistency, integrity, and the ability to rise above emotion when stakes are high. A calm leader in chaos inspires more loyalty than an aggressive one holding a weapon. That night, the so-called security relied on false power, but my daughter demonstrated real strength without even needing to draw hers. The lesson here is simple yet profound. False power is loud, reckless, and temporary, while real strength is quiet, steady, and lasting. Anyone can pretend to be powerful for a moment by creating fear, but only those with discipline and humility can demonstrate true strength over time. Real strength always outshines false power because it doesn't depend on circumstance. It is a reflection of character. The guard's gun showed nothing but weakness, but my daughter's calm presence displayed strength that could not be shaken. In that contrast, we see clearly that true power is never false, it is earned, and it speaks without needing a weapon. Training over fear is the difference between chaos and control, between a reckless reaction and a measured response. Fear makes people act without thinking, rushing into decisions that often create more harm than good. Training, however, equips a person to remain calm, to assess the situation, and to act with purpose instead of panic. The HOA guard reacted out of fear, pulling a gun as if that alone would solve the problem. My daughter, by contrast, relied on years of training that allowed her to face danger with composure. Training builds habits that override the natural impulse of fear. Where fear tells you to lash out or run away, training teaches you to breathe, to think, and to take control of the moment. It replaces uncertainty with practiced skill and turns overwhelming situations into manageable ones. This is why my daughter didn't escalate when faced with a weapon. Her training kept her grounded. She understood that real power comes not from reacting to fear but from controlling it. Fear may shake a person, but training stabilizes them in the storm. When people act from fear, they often create more danger than the situation originally held. A guard pulling a gun out of panic only makes a peaceful moment explosive, introducing unnecessary risk. Training, however, ensures that actions are not driven by emotion but by logic and awareness. It is the difference between someone who causes harm under stress and someone who prevents it. My daughter knew that one wrong move could escalate everything, so her training guided her into calm control. Fear would have led to chaos, training led to order. Training also builds confidence, and confidence eliminates the need for overcompensation. Those who act from fear often try to appear strong by using threats or force, but it exposes their insecurity. Someone who has trained, prepared, and mastered their skills doesn't need to prove anything. They already know their capabilities, and that knowledge allows them to move with certainty. My daughter's calm presence in that heated moment came from confidence born of training. She didn't need to raise her voice or wave a weapon, because she was already in control of herself. The greatest proof that training is stronger than fear is that it creates safety not just for the individual, but for everyone around them. A person who can control their fear can prevent others from panicking, creating stability in unstable moments. This is what makes training invaluable in positions of responsibility, whether in law enforcement, leadership, or everyday life. The HOA guard spread fear because he lacked it, but my daughter brought calm because she had it. In that contrast, the truth is undeniable. Fear without training is dangerous, but training without fear is powerful. Judgment clouded by ego and prejudice is one of the most dangerous combinations in any position of authority. When someone allows their assumptions or personal biases to dictate their actions, they stop seeing people as individuals and start seeing them as threats or stereotypes. The HOA guard did not stop to question his motives or evaluate the situation carefully. His ego told him he had control, and his prejudice convinced him that intimidation was the way to maintain it. That distorted judgment turned a routine encounter into a life-threatening moment. Ego thrives on the need to prove superiority, and when combined with prejudice, it blinds people from truth and fairness. Instead of protecting the community, the guard focused on feeding his pride and exercising control over someone he assumed was powerless. He saw my daughter not as a neighbor or fellow human being, but as someone he could dominate. His judgment was clouded because he valued power more than responsibility. Once ego takes the driver's seat, rational thinking disappears, and prejudice fills the void with reckless decisions. Prejudice narrows vision and prevents people from seeing the full picture. It tells a false story before any facts are even gathered. The guard didn't know who my daughter was or what she was capable of, but his prejudice convinced him that she could be intimidated. What he failed to recognize was that every assumption he made was wrong. Prejudice always underestimates others and exaggerates the importance of the self. It strips away fairness and creates a distorted reality where danger is imagined and respect is absent. Clouded judgment is what makes authority dangerous, because instead of serving the community, it serves the ego of the person holding it. A guard entrusted with safety should act with patience and fairness, but ego and prejudice twist that responsibility into abuse. This is why my daughter's calmness revealed such a stark contrast. She didn't let ego or prejudice guide her decisions. She relied on training and awareness. Her clarity of judgment stood firm against his clouded one, proving how dangerous unchecked arrogance can be. When judgment is guided by ego and prejudice, mistakes are inevitable, and those mistakes cost trust, safety, and sometimes even lives. The incident with the HOA guard was a lesson that authority without clear judgment will always fail. True authority requires humility, self-awareness, and the ability to treat every individual with fairness regardless of assumptions. My daughter showed that clarity of judgment protects, while clouded judgment endangers. In the end, his prejudice and ego exposed weakness, while her discipline and fairness revealed true strength. Calm under pressure is the ultimate mark of true leadership, because it shows that a person's emotions do not control their actions. In moments of chaos, fear, and uncertainty, most people react with instinct rather than reason, and that often escalates the problem. A leader, however, knows how to pause, breathe, and think clearly even when danger is close. My daughter, standing face to face with a weapon, chose calmness instead of panic. That composure gave her control over the moment and prevented it from spiraling out of hand. Staying calm is not about ignoring the seriousness of the situation. It is about managing it with clarity and discipline. A person who panics spreads fear to everyone around them, but a person who remains steady inspires others to follow their lead. Calmness communicates confidence, and confidence brings stability to uncertain moments. The HOA guard's panic-driven aggression created instability, but my daughter's calmness anchored the situation. Her ability to keep her composure was proof that leadership is not about power, it is about influence and control of oneself. Calmness under pressure also gives space for better decisions. When people act in panic, they act blindly, and blind choices often bring regret. A calm leader evaluates, considers outcomes, and responds with precision rather than impulse. My daughter understood that one wrong move could escalate the situation, so her calmness allowed her to think with clarity. That kind of presence does not come from luck, it comes from practice, discipline, and the strength to resist fear's pull. Calmness is a shield against chaos, protecting both the leader and everyone else involved. Leadership in critical moments is measured not by who shouts the loudest or waves authority, but by who can create order in disorder. Calmness is the quiet force that brings structure when everything feels unstable. A true leader never lets pressure dictate their decisions. They dictate the moment with their steadiness. My daughter's training gave her this skill, but her character made it natural. Her calm response turned a volatile encounter into a controlled one, and that is the essence of real leadership. The difference between the HOA guard and my daughter was not just about authority but about mindset. He let fear and ego drive him, while she let discipline and calmness guide her. His lack of control made him dangerous, but her composure made her powerful. Calmness under pressure shows strength that weapons or authority alone cannot provide. It proves that leadership is not about avoiding pressure, but about facing it with balance. The one who stays calm becomes the one who leads, even when the world feels like it is collapsing around them. Respect is something that cannot be forced because it is never born out of fear. It is earned through consistent integrity and fairness. A person who demands respect by waiving authority only creates resentment in the hearts of others. Genuine respect comes from actions that prove reliability, trust, and honor. The HOA guard demanded respect through intimidation, but his actions showed recklessness and weakness. My daughter, without demanding it, gained respect through her composure and discipline in the face of danger. When authority tries to demand respect without earning it, it always reveals insecurity. Those who feel the need to remind others of their power are often the ones who lack real control. Fear may silence people temporarily, but it never builds admiration or trust. My daughter's response highlighted this truth. She didn't raise her voice or threaten force, yet her presence alone commanded respect. Respect is built on character, not position, and it cannot be manufactured by aggression. Respect is a long-term investment, built moment by moment and choice by choice. Leaders who treat others fairly, stand firm in principles, and act with humility naturally gain the loyalty of those around them. The guard may have carried a weapon, but he lacked the foundation of respect that real authority requires. My daughter's training allowed her to understand this distinction, which is why she remained calm instead of reacting with equal aggression. She knew that demanding respect creates walls, while earning it builds bridges. The power of earned respect is that it lasts even after the moment of conflict is gone. People remember how you treated them, whether you acted with fairness, and whether your actions aligned with your words. This is why true leaders never need to force people into obedience. They inspire it through consistency. My daughter's calm strength left an impression far beyond the encounter, while the guard's behavior left behind distrust and shame. Respect endures when it comes from a place of authenticity and integrity. At its core, respect is the currency of real authority, and without it, titles or power mean nothing. A person who earns respect can lead others even without formal authority, while one who demands it will lose influence even with all the power in the world. The HOA guard believed that respect could be demanded through fear, but he only deepened mistrust. My daughter showed that true respect is earned quietly through strength of character. In the end, respect can never be taken, it can only be given, and it is given to those who prove they deserve it. Courage and discipline outlast fear, because they are built on foundations that do not collapse under pressure. Fear is an immediate reaction, powerful but fleeting, and it often drives people into rash decisions. Courage, on the other hand, is a choice made in the presence of fear, and discipline is the tool that keeps that choice steady. My daughter did not allow fear to dictate her actions when the guard pulled his weapon. She chose courage, supported by years of disciplined training that kept her focused. Fear can take control in a moment, but it cannot sustain itself because it feeds only on panic. A person who relies on fear to control others will eventually lose their influence once that fear wears off. Courage endures because it creates trust and inspires those who witness it. Discipline ensures that courage is not just a sudden spark but a steady flame that burns through uncertainty. My daughter's courage came not from recklessness, but from controlled strength that fear could not overcome. Discipline is what transforms courage from a feeling into an action. Without discipline, courage might fade as quickly as it appears, but with discipline it becomes reliable even in the hardest moments. The guard acted out of fear, which clouded his judgment and made him dangerous. My daughter relied on discipline, which gave her a clear head and allowed her to stay in control. That balance of courage and discipline created authority that no weapon could overpower. Courage also inspires others because it shows that fear does not have to win. When someone stands firm in the face of danger, it gives others hope and reassurance. Discipline reinforces this courage by ensuring that the response is measured, not reckless. A courageous but undisciplined reaction can still cause harm, but disciplined courage protects everyone involved. This is why my daughter's handling of the situation was so powerful. It was not only brave but also precise. Her response gave the moment stability rather than chaos. The lasting power of courage and discipline lies in the fact that they create trust while fear destroys it. A leader who rules by fear will eventually be resisted, but a leader who shows courage and discipline will always be respected. Fear may dominate a moment, but courage and discipline shape the future. My daughter's calm bravery proved that true power is not found in threats or intimidation, but in the steady presence of someone who will not be shaken. In the end, courage and discipline always outlast fear because they are grounded in strength that cannot be forced or faked.